The village of Okuru always woke slowly, like an old man stretching his bones after a long night, but on this particular dawn, nothing felt normal. A pale blue mist rolled across the dusty footpaths, wrapping every hut like a shroud. Roosters crowed, yet their cries sounded uncertain, as if even they sensed something strange had entered the morning. At the edge of the village, near the crooked palm tree that leaned like a tired sentinel, Nero, a young basket weaver with sharp eyes and a quiet spirit, stepped outside his hut to fetch water. His mind was still heavy with dreams when he saw a figure walking out of the mist, barefoot, slow, and swaying like a shadow learning how to move again. Nero froze. The woman's skin looked dull, almost gray, her hair clumped with red dust. Her eyes, those eyes, were familiar. Too familiar. "No, it cannot be," he whispered. The woman stopped in front of him, breathing as though each inhale was borrowed from another world. "Nero," she said, her voice trembling like old cloth. "I need your help." He staggered back, his pot crashing to the ground. "Lena," he breathed. But Lena had died 3 days ago. He was there when they lowered her wrapped body into the ground. He had listened as mourners wailed until their voices cracked. Yet here she stood, barefoot in the morning dust. She lifted her chin, tears collecting in the corners of her once beautiful eyes. "Nero," she said again, "I have returned to Dawn because I want my body back." Nero's knees weakened as he clung to the wooden frame of his doorway, trying to understand whether he was awake or trapped inside a nightmare too real to escape. "Lena, this is impossible. We buried you," he whispered, his voice shaking as though it had forgotten how to form words. But Lena took one step forward, then another, each movement slow and painful, as if pushing through invisible walls. "Yes," she said, clasping her trembling hands together. "You buried what you thought was me. But my spirit has not rested. Something went wrong. Something was taken." Her voice cracked, and she glanced around as though afraid the dawn itself might overhear her. "My body is not mine anymore." Nero swallowed hard, unsure whether fear or sorrow gripped him more. "What do you mean?" he asked. "Who took it?" Lena's lips quivered before she spoke. "The night I died," she whispered, "a shadow came for me. Not death, not the spirits, something else. It tore my body away from my spirit. I woke in darkness, floating above my own flesh." Nero felt his skin turn cold despite the warm air. "Lena, listen to me," he said carefully. "You need a rest. Maybe you're confused. Maybe no," she snapped, grabbing his wrist. Her fingers were cold as river stones. "I'm not confused, Nero. I am trapped. If I do not reclaim my body by the next moon, I will fade forever." Her chest rose and fell sharply as she whispered, "You were the last person who spoke to me before I died. That is why I came to you. You must help me find what was stolen." Nero looked around the village, hoping someone else might be walking by, anyone who could confirm that he wasn't losing his mind. But the paths were empty, the morning still too young for curious eyes. He steadied himself and asked in a soft voice, "Why me, Lena? There are elders. There are priests. Why come to someone like me?" Lena's face tightened, and she shook her head with desperation. "Because the elders will fear me. The priests will try to banish me. And Nero, you cared for me even when no one else did." Quiet sorrow passed between them. Before her death, Lena had been called strange by the villagers, always walking alone, always collecting herbs no one else recognized. Rumors had followed her like uninvited shadows. Nero, despite his own fears, had always greeted her with kindness. She touched her chest lightly and whispered, "You believed I wasn't cursed. You believed I was simply trying to live." Nero exhaled shakily. "What exactly do you need me to do?" Lena turned her gaze toward the dense forest beyond the palm tree. "My body was taken into the woods," she said. "I cannot cross that boundary in this form." "But you can." Nero almost laughed at the absurdity. "So you want me to walk into the forest where spirits play tricks, where hunters go missing, where my body lies?" Lena interrupted. "And if we do not retrieve it in time, I will not exist. Help me, Nero. Please." Her voice softened to a fragile whisper. "Do not let me die twice." The sun was slowly climbing, brushing gold onto the mist as Nero stared at the forest Lena pointed to. Impossible as her story sounded, something in her eyes, fear, longing, desperation, felt painfully real. He rubbed his forehead, trying to organize his thoughts. "If I go with you," he said finally, "what happens when we find your body?" Lena lowered her head as though ashamed. "I do not know," she admitted. "The shadow that stole it marked it with something. A seal, a lock. I cannot break it alone." She looked up again. "But maybe we can, together." Nero sighed deeply. "This is madness." "Yes," Lena answered gently, "but it is my only hope." Silence stretched between them until Nero finally muttered, "Let me get my shoes." The faintest smile touched Lena's lips, though it looked painful, as if smiling required strength she no longer had. As Nero stepped back into his hut to prepare, Lena's expression shifted from relief to quiet worry. She whispered to herself, "Let him not regret this." When Nero returned with his sandals, a water skin, and a small knife, she nodded gratefully. "Thank you." He shook his head. "Don't thank me yet. I haven't agreed fully. I'm only walking with you until I understand what I'm facing." Lena gave a small nod. "Then let us walk, before the sun grows strong. Shadows hide best in the light." Nero frowned. "I thought shadows hide in the dark." Lena whispered, "Not the kind that took my body." They began walking through the quiet village. Lena floating a few inches above the ground despite trying to mimic the movements of someone truly alive. Nero noticed that people they passed, mostly early risers sweeping doorways, did not seem to see her at all. He glanced at an elderly woman drawing water. The woman looked straight through Lena as though she were a patch of air. "Lena," he whispered, leaning closer, "they can't see you." She nodded. "Only the person I choose can see me. It saves me from panic, or from being chased by those who fear the dead." Nero swallowed. "So, I'm a chosen one?" "For now." He frowned. "What happens if you choose someone else?" She paused, her voice low. "Then you would forget I ever stood here." A chill raced down his spine. "Then do not choose anyone else," he muttered. She gave a faint smile. "I don't plan to." They reached the edge of the village where the forest entrance waited like a dark mouth ready to swallow travelers whole. Nero stared at the tall trees, the thick vines, and the eerie stillness that seemed to hum with secrets. "Lena," he murmured, "before we enter, tell me the truth. Did something kill you?" Lena's expression darkened, shadows crossing her transparent face. "Yes," she whispered, "and it is still inside that forest." Nero's breath caught in his throat. "What was it?" Lena looked deep into the trees and said quietly, "It was not a creature. It was a person." Nero stood frozen at the forest's entrance, the weight of Lena's last words sinking into him like cold rain. "A person," he repeated, struggling to keep his voice steady. Lena nodded slowly, her fingers twisting together as though she were reliving a moment she wished she could erase. "Yes, Nero. Someone from the village," she whispered. "Someone who knew the forest paths well. Someone who waited for me that night." Nero's heartbeat quickened. "But why would anyone take your body? What would they gain from such a terrible act?" Lena inhaled deeply, though her chest barely lifted. "I did not understand at first," she said softly, "but the shadow that dragged my spirit from my body, it had a voice. A human voice. It spoke a name, a command, and something answered. Something old." She paused, trembling. "My body was taken as an offering." Nero felt the earth shift beneath his feet. An offering to what? Lena closed her eyes as if the memory stung. To a spirit that lives under the forest roots. A spirit that hungers for breath and warmth. Someone in the village made a deal. Nero shook his head in disbelief. "Lena, this is too much. Are you telling me one of our people sacrificed you?" Lena opened her eyes again, sorrow pooling like water in their depths. "Not sacrificed," she said. "Traded." Nero stared at her, unable to form words. "Traded?" he finally echoed. "For power," she answered. Her voice broke on the word. "For protection. For wealth. I do not know." She reached for his arm gently. "Nero, I came to you because you're the only one I trust to hear this without running away. I need you to be brave with me. He looked at the forest again and muttered. Then we walk in. But if we see anything that breathes wrong, we run. Lena gave a small, sad nod. I wish running were still possible for me. The forest swallowed them quickly, the towering trees forming a thick canopy that dimmed the early sunlight. Every step deeper brought with it a strange silence. No birds calling, no leaves rustling, not even the hum of insects. Nero tightened his grip on his small knife. Why is it so quiet? He whispered, scanning the shadows for movement. Lena drifted beside him, her expression tense. Because the forest listens, she murmured. When something ancient wakes, everything else hides. Nero frowned, and we're just walking into its mouth. She turned toward him, her eyes shimmering with a soft glow. If I could walk alone, I would. But I cannot touch this world, Nero. I cannot move leaves or break branches. I need you. He sighed heavily. Then at least tell me where we're going. Lena pointed deeper into the woods. There is a clearing ahead. That is where they performed the ritual. That is where I last saw my body before I was pulled away. Nero hesitated. Who is they? Lena bit her lip, her voice lowering to nearly a whisper. I did not see their faces. They wore coverings, masks made from bark and cloth. But one voice I recognized. Nero's heart thudded painfully. Whose voice? Lena opened her mouth to answer, but before she could speak, a low creaking sound echoed through the forest, like an enormous tree bending under great weight. Nero spun around. What was that? Lena's face went completely still. It knows we are here, she whispered. The spirit beneath the roots. Nero took a step back. Then let's leave. Lena shook her head. If we leave now, it will follow us. It will claim my body forever. Nero swallowed, then squared his shoulders. Fine. Lead the way, but stay close. Very close. Lena nodded. I'm never far. The deeper they walked, the thicker the air became. Not just heavy, but almost sticky, as if the forest itself were breathing against their skin. Nero wiped sweat from his brow, even though the air felt oddly cold. Lena, he said quietly, how did you end up here the night you died? Lena looked straight ahead, her voice turning hollow. I was gathering leaves for a healing mixture. A child in the village had fever. You remember the boy? Nero nodded. Teiko. Yes, Lena said softly. His mother begged me for help. So I came into the woods to search for heartleaf. I found some, but I also found footprints. Fresh ones. Too many for one person. Nero tightened his jaw. So they were waiting? Yes, Lena whispered. I turned to leave, but something struck me from behind. I felt sharp pain, then darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I was floating above them. They circled my body, chanting words I had never heard before. Nero felt his stomach twist. They killed you without even letting you fight. Lena shook her head. I did not know if I died from the blow or from what they did after. But when the ground opened, when the roots moved, I knew they had called something terrible. Nero paused mid-step. The ground opened? Lena turned to him slowly. Nero, the forest is alive. Not like the living trees, you know. Something sleeps beneath. Something ancient, with hands made of roots and a voice like breaking wood. Nero felt dizziness rush through him. In your body, they gave it to this thing? Lena nodded. Yes, and it took it. Nero exhaled shakily. Then we're not looking for a body. We are stealing it back. Lena's eyes glowed faintly. Exactly. They reached a narrow path where the trees twisted toward each other like they were whispering secrets overhead. The silence grew heavier, pressing against Nero's ears until he felt like he was underwater. This is the place, Lena whispered. Nero scanned the area. I see nothing, just leaves and old roots. Lena drifted forward, pointing to a large, twisted tree at the center of the path. The bark was dark and ridged, almost like scarred skin. This tree, Lena said, is where the ritual began. They laid my body at the base. Nero walked closer, each step slower than the last. It looks wrong, he muttered, like it's breathing. Lena nodded. It is connected to the spirit below. A doorway. Nero shivered. Show me what happened. Lena hesitated. Are you sure? I need to understand. She closed her eyes, and a faint wind began to stir. The world dimmed slightly, and narrow, soft flickers, shapes moving around the tree, chanting softly. Lena's voice narrated over the vision. They placed my body here. They drew marks in the soil. When they finished, the ground split open. I heard one of them say, "Take this vessel, give us what we seek." And then a hand made of roots pulled me down. The vision faded. Narrow stared at the tree, shaking. "Lena, that thing is still here?" She nodded, waiting, watching, "And it knows you have come to take me back." Narrow raised his knife with a trembling hand. "Then let it watch. I'm not leaving without your body." Lena's eyes widened, not in fear, but hope. Before Narrow could take another step, the ground beneath the tree rumbled, sending small stones skittering across the soil. "Narrow," Lena whispered urgently, "it senses your challenge." Narrow backed away as the earth cracked open just slightly, like lips parting for breath. A deep groaning sound rose from below, vibrating through his bones. "Lena, maybe this was a mistake." She reached for him, even though her hand passed faintly through his sleeve. "Do not lose courage. My body is near. I can feel it." The crack in the ground widened a little more, and warm, earthy air wafted out, smelling of damp roots and something metallic like blood. Narrow gagged. "This thing eats people?" Lena shook her head. "Not in the way you think. It wears them. It uses bodies like clothes." Narrow stared at her. "You're telling me your body might be walking?" Lena looked away. "Maybe. Or maybe it sleeps under the soil, trapped by the spirit's mark." The rumbling grew louder, and something shifted beneath the roots, slow, heavy, deliberate. Narrow raised his knife higher. "If anything comes out of that hole, I'm stabbing first and running later." Lena floated closer. "Listen to me. This spirit understands fear. It feeds on it, so do not show it." Narrow laughed nervously. "Lena, I'm showing fear because I'm afraid." Lena leaned in. "Then be afraid, but keep moving. We are here for a reason." The ground stilled for a moment. Then a faint whisper rose from below, like a voice dragging across stone. "Narrow." Narrow jumped back. "It knows my name." Lena's voice dropped to a trembling whisper. "Yes, because the one who traded me told it who you were." Narrow's breath shortened as the whisper dissolved into the earth, leaving a sharp stillness behind. "Lena," he said, voice barely steady, "who told my name? Who in the village would even think of using me?" Lena's face dimmed slightly, like a lantern losing oil. "I hope to spare you this," she murmured. "But since we are close to the end, you must know." She floated to the twisted tree, tracing its bark with an invisible hand. The voice I recognized during the ritual, the one giving the commands, was someone you trust. Someone who often came to your hut to eat from your pot. Someone who pretended to be your friend. Narrow's heart clenched painfully. "Lero," he whispered, naming the man he had grown beside since childhood. Lena gave a slow, sad nod. "Yes." Narrow staggered back. "No, Lero would never. He's like my brother. He is the one who brought me here," Lena said softly. "He told the others I carried a blessing, a gift he could use if the spirit accepted me." Narrow felt heat rise behind his eyes. "But for what? Why betray me?" Lena's expression twisted. "Because the spirit asked for a loyal servant, someone who would bring more offerings." Lero wanted protection for his family. He wanted status. He wanted power. Narrow clenched his fists. "I'll kill him." Lena shook her head. "No, not now. Not here. First, we must finish what we came to do." The ground beneath them trembled again. Narrow wiped his eyes roughly, inhaled deeply, and stepped closer to the tree. "Then show me," he said. "Show me where your body is." Lena pointed downward as the soil began to split once more, revealing darkness that breathed like a living thing. A long, root-covered hand pushed through the opening, groping blindly along the ground. Narrow froze in place, terror locking his legs. The hand was made of thick vines twisted together, pulsing faintly like veins filled with sap instead of blood. "Don't move," Lena whispered urgently. The hand searched the air, then slammed onto the ground with a heavy thud, dragging something behind it, something pale, something limp. Narrow's stomach lurched as the thing emerged, a body. Lena's body. The skin was dull and lifeless, marked with dark lines running from the neck to the ankles like the forest had drawn veins over her. "That's you," Nero whispered. Lena floated toward it, her voice shaking. "Yes, my shell, my vessel. The spirit has been draining it." The root hand tightened around the body's wrist, preparing to pull it back underground. "No!" Nero shouted. Without thinking, he lunged forward and plunged his knife deep into the vines. A shriek erupted from below, not a human cry, but the sound of wood splitting under unbearable pressure. The vines recoiled violently, twisting and snapping away from the knife, releasing Lena's body. "Nero!" Lena cried. "You heard it!" "Good," he shouted. "Let it know I'm coming for you." The earth shook violently, cracks spidering outward as if the spirit were thrashing in rage beneath the roots. Nero grabbed Lena's limp body, though it felt heavy as stone. "Lena," he shouted, "what do I do now?" She hovered beside him, voice trembling. "Lay my body on the ground, quickly." Nero lowered it carefully, but the ground began to sink beneath them. "Now place your hand over my heart." Nero pressed his palm onto the cold chest, praying he wasn't too late. The moment his hand touched her chest, a heavy silence fell, followed by a powerful pull, like wind rushing inward. Lena's spirit form flickered, her edges blurring as though she were being stretched toward her physical body. "Nero, don't move your hand," she cried. "I'm trying," he shouted, feeling the ground shaking harder beneath his feet. The vines slithered angrily around them, trying to reclaim what he had stolen. Lena's spirit wavered, then shot downward like a beam of pale light, striking her body with a force that sent a blast of cold air sweeping across the clearing. Her limbs jerked. Her chest rose slightly. Her fingers twitched. "Lena!" Nero yelled, shaking her shoulders. "Come back!" A furious roar erupted from the earth as the spirit surged upward, its root hand clawing toward them. "Nero!" Lena gasped, her voice now coming from the body. Her eyes fluttered open, weak but alive. "Let go!" "What?" "No! Let go now! It will pull you under if you don't." Nero saw the ground buckling beneath him, the roots coiling toward his legs. With a desperate yell, he released her and rolled backward as the spirit lunged upward, trying to grasp her before her soul settled fully. Lena inhaled a sharp, painful breath, the first true breath since her death. A burst of light shot from her chest, slamming into the spirit's reaching appendage. The root hand sizzled, shriveled, and retracted violently into the earth. The ground sealed shut with a final, thunderous crack. Nero scrambled toward her. "Lena, are you alive?" She blinked slowly, tears slipping from the corners of her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm whole again." Nero fell to his knees beside her. Thank the spirits. But the victory was not quiet. The forest suddenly exhaled a long, mournful sigh, as though the ancient spirit beneath knew it had lost something precious. Lena tried to sit up, but winced. "Help me," she murmured. Nero lifted her gently, supporting her weight as though holding a fragile newborn. "We need to leave before it wakes again," she said. "It will not forget what we've done." Together they staggered toward the edge of the woods, Lena leaning heavily on him. The birds slowly began to chirp again, the air growing lighter as the oppressive silence faded. When they reached the first rays of sunlight, Lena paused and looked back at the forest. "Nero," she whispered, "I owe you my life, the life I lost, and the life you returned to me." Nero swallowed, emotion tightening his throat. "Lena, you don't owe me anything. I just wanted you back." She touched his hand, her fingers warm for the first time. "Then promise me something," she said softly. "Promise you will be careful. The one who betrayed me, he is still in the village. And now that I have returned, he will not rest." Nero nodded slowly. "Then let him come. Let him see you alive. Let him see he failed." Lena managed a small, pained smile. "The forest may sleep again, but evil does not forget." Together they walked toward the village, the sun rising behind them. And though the morning was bright, the shadows at their backs stretched